I'm so glad that you guys are here because really what we want to talk about is how do we get out of slumps when we're in slumps? So, working with high achievers, people will say to me, I just feel off. I'm not exactly sure what's going on. And so I developed the Personal Pentagon to try and help make sure that people either can get out of a slump or just as importantly, can get back into their rhythm of performance. And so it's really looking at 5 key areas, and we're going to walk through, try and give you some tactical performance ideas. But it's really just this whole concept of if we have the awareness of what's going on, then we can take action to change it and get us back into a place of performance. And so that's really what we're thinking about. So the Pentagon is the Department of Defense. It's one of the most well-guarded places and strategery in the whole world. And yet still on September 11th, an airplane was able to crash into it and create some real damage. And so really what we're trying to do is make sure that we avoid disaster in all aspects of our life. In most cases, we are our own worst enemy. And so how do we make sure that we continue to get out of our own way and elevate our performance to be as consistent and as productive as possible? So I really look at this and say, you're either in a positive or you're in a negative spiral. You're either on the way up in performance or you're on the way down, because the point is stasis is death, right? The actual root word stasis means death. It has stopped working. It's at an equilibrium. And so we're always moving in some way across the board. So we have to be of this mindset that we're on the way up or we're on the way down. And since we're talking about getting unstuck, what is going to be that spiral stopper? So if we find ourselves in a place where we are somehow in a negative spiral, the good news is it only takes 2 decisions. One is to stop the negative spiral, and one is to start a positive spiral. So we want to equip ourselves with tools to make positive decisions, whether it is, hey, I'm going to stop watching the news because all they're pumping us with is negative information. And so that's feeding my negative bias, and I'm seeing the world in a really negative way, and that doesn't serve me. Or it might be, I'm going to get up off the couch and I'm not going to let my poor decisions of yesterday negatively impact the positive decisions that I can make today. And so it's really good news that it only takes 2 decisions. It is not insurmountable. And it can be little things that we do to change the dynamics of going from in a negative spiral to a positive spiral. Here's the key, and I say this to my kids all the time. I am not upset. I'm just bringing you awareness so that you can take different action next time. And so awareness always precedes action. And so the more aware you can be, and that's why we look at frameworks, because they're repeatable, they're predictable, and they're scalable, the more action you can take to get yourself back on track. And so that's where we want to be. Here are the 5 pieces that I have found working with high achievers that change the dynamic. And almost always we can point to one of these 5 things where someone has fallen off track and they go, that's it. I've stopped my morning routine, and that's why I'm not in a state of performance. So I'm going to walk you through each of these. Again, if you guys have any questions, just put them in the chat. I would love to answer as many questions as I can to make sure that we're serving you on here. So here's one of the things that I think is interesting, because data, you can lie with data, but data really supports positions that are out there. But 60% of leaders right now, survey of 15,000 leaders from DDI, are feeling used up by the end of the day. And it puts the organization at tremendous risk. And so what is it that we can do as leaders inside of an organization, or people who are helping with leadership and development or in HR, to make sure that our people have the right tools and resources to succeed at every level? So in my opinion, the way we stop the negative slide is the Personal Pentagon. Ironically, I thought about this because I was working my way through it while I was on a treadmill, and I voice recorded the very first time walking through the Personal Pentagon while I was on a treadmill. and I've shared it many, many times, but it is funny because I'm walking on the treadmill and you can very clearly hear that I am huffing and puffing, walking on the treadmill uphill as I did it. So if you've ever been around or if you watched previous episodes, I would encourage you to go back to episode 5, which is the 9 principles of personal performance. So the very first principle that we need to look at is our health. And our health is comprised of 3 things: diet, exercise, and sleep. Now, I'm not here to tell you, oh, you need to be on a diet, but we need to be mindful of our food. So we just think about food as fuel, right? I'm not saying, oh, go do the keto diet or go become a vegetarian. You have to figure out what serves you. But what's really important is you need to be thinking about, how am I viewing and treating food? Am I using it as like, man, I'm really feeling a little sad and down, so I'm sitting and I'm drinking a number of beers tonight, or I'm eating the whole bag of potato chips? Whatever that might look like, you get yourself into a negative spiral. And then what happens is we get ourselves into this mindset of, well, who cares, because I'm not going to work out. I ate that bag of chips. Now you're in that negative spiral. So we need to be focused in on food as fuel. We got to change our relationship with food. It is fuel, fuel, and fuel. There are endless benefits of exercise. All of us know this. And so I thought this one, just in today's day and age, is a really important statistic. It comes from the Harvard School of Public Health. Walking for an hour or going for a 15-minute run reduces the risk of major depression by 26%. I know I'm talking about your physical health in diet, exercise, and sleep. Mental health is a really critical element here. And when you really look at the 9 principles of personal performance, while the first principle is your physical health, all the rest of them have to do with performance and your mental health. And so it's a hot topic. We have just come through a very stressful period in the world, dealing with a pandemic, certainly fearful, changing environments. And so depression is certainly a hot topic. And so I thought I'd pull this one out as an example of, there are endless benefits to exercise. Exercising continues to help you sleep better, have more energy, which I always find to be counterintuitive, that I'm going to have more energy even though I work out more. But that's the way it works. And so it just, for me, is really the keystone habit for me personally. So I know right now that my fitness has not been very good. And that's why we are doing the Provenite June 30-day fitness challenge. If you have not joined us, I will tell you, come join us. You're going to win $500 to the first place winner, Summerlin Anderson from Seal Shield. She says she's going to win that $500. Second place gets $250. There we go, Summerlin. I love it. And so the whole point of it is, let's get ourselves moving, myself included. And so for me, I've taken a challenge with Matt Foxhall and Timmy Gallagher. We're going to do a 24-hour World's Toughest Mudder at the end of November. And so that is something fun for me, because I love to live an epic life. And so I'm going to get myself moving, and I'm going to pay all of you to come along with me to start doing it. So we're going to have some fun competition. Roanne says she's going to win bragging rights. I don't know exactly if that's true or not, but I love her enthusiasm. The third piece of the first principle is sleep. And I thought this was a shocking statistic, but they estimate that $411 billion is lost in the United States because of sleep deficiency. So when you really stop and think about this, there are lots and lots of people who don't get the proper amount of sleep and therefore can't perform at their highest levels. So by contrast, it's like 2.3% of the US GDP is negatively impacted because people are getting less than, they say, 6 to 8 hours worth of sleep. I call it the Sirius 7. I go to bed at 9 o'clock and get up at 4. And so for me, that's my approach, to make sure that I try and get 7 hours of sleep. But imagine you can't do your best work when you're not topped up off on your energy. And so focus in, easy stuff, principle 1. But when we look at it, and you can look back and say, how are we doing on principle 1? Have you been exercising? So I say, no, you know what? I've been so busy, I haven't gotten to exercise. Okay, maybe that's why you're stuck. Maybe that's the trigger mechanism or the keystone habit for you. to get yourself back into performance. Maybe you've been traveling a lot, so you've been eating out, and now, geez, your waistline's a little bit tighter. And so you say, all right, well, let's get ourselves back into a place where we're treating food as fuel. Or we look at sleep. One of my clients just had a new child, and so he's struggling with sleep right now. And as I reminded him, in 6 months that'll change, but that's dependence to have a beautiful child in your life right now. So always look at the first principle: diet, exercise, and sleep. So focus on 7 hours sleep. The research says you should have consistent bedtime and awake time. Just because you went to bed a little bit later, you should still get up at the same time. So for instance, if I go to bed at 11 because we went out to a late dinner, I still get up early. The trick there is you want to keep your biorhythms in motion. You take a nap, you don't just sleep in, because that'll mess you up with your biorhythms. Don't hit the snooze button, right? There's so many people that hit the snooze button, hit the snooze button, hit the snooze button, hit the snooze button. It messes up your deep sleep pattern, right? 30 minutes of elevated heart rate, minimum 3 days a week. I tell people they should really go for 5. And then reasonable diet: limit, don't exclude. I think this is really important. There's so many diets out there that try and get you to stop eating these things, which then you're in deprivation mode and makes you want it more. And so for a lot of people, the right choice is to limit, don't exclude. Reasonable alcohol intake is limit or exclude. So a little bit different than food. Maybe I shouldn't do that at all, right? If I want to be at a high level of performance. So the second piece is your morning routine. And so we really want to focus in on how do we prime the pump for performance. So what is a morning routine and why do we do it? And so morning routine really simply is a set of habits that accelerate your day forward. For most people, it takes 30 to 90 minutes to do it. And I'm going to walk you through certain elements that are there. But the whole point is that if I'm going to go and have a great day of performance, I've got to make sure that my pump is primed to go do that. And so when we start our day with the right energy, a level of clarity and focus that comes along with it, and confidence, you get more of the right stuff completed. And so I can't emphasize more the importance of a great morning routine. Next week, we have Timmy Gallagher on. He has this extraordinary morning routine that he goes through. He's going to share with us his morning routine and his positive mindset. This guy is a beast, 7-time Ironman finisher, and has held a very high level positions within state government. So he's a fun character to talk to. Well, I'm looking forward to him next week. So the benefits of a morning routine: we get more structure. We don't leave it to chance. Oh, maybe I'll exercise tomorrow. I'll do it in the afternoon. No, I'm tired. And then I don't exercise at all, right? And so we can create more structure to make sure we're getting the right things done. We have less stress because I have a plan. I know exactly what it is that I'm going to do. I'm not leaving success to chance. And again, we explode our productivity. What are core elements of a morning routine? So this is different for everyone. You have to make something that works for you and the things that are important to you. But I'll just give you handfuls of elements of good morning routines. So one is remember your dreams. So if you go back to the 9 principles of personal performance in episode 5, we feed the subconscious before we go to sleep. Your subconscious is the creative part of your mind that tackles problems and creativity. And so if we feed that before we go to sleep, we wake up with all of these epiphanies and ideas, right? And so we just make it work for us in the back. So we want to remember our dream, right? The role of the subconscious is creativity. Start our morning with water. You can put a little lemon in there if you're feeling really adventurous to get your pH back into the right spot. Again, same time awake and get up early. If you look at this, if you get up 1 hour earlier over the course of a year, so there's 365 hours, and you're getting up 1 hour earlier, you end up doing a whole much more living through the whole entire year. I forget exactly what the math is, but I think it's like 7 days, 7.6 days of more living if you get up 1 hour earlier every day. Consider it. It's not for everyone. When I look at high performers, all the CEOs, the CEO of Apple, all of them, they're all early risers. To me, there's something to that. And so I like to learn from other people because I don't have to make those same mistakes myself. Fourth element: exercise, dance, sing. all of those things that get your body moving and thinking and in motion. Those are really important things for me. Again, I'll say it, it is my keystone habit. When I am exercising, I am eating better, my clarity of thought is better, my energy is way higher. And so that's why in June, I will be on the 30-day challenge. 5, meditation, prayer, or silence, right? Use this space to get yourself still and present. Be here in the moment. 6, reading, writing, or gratitude journaling. All great elements that we are just letting the creativity and priming the pump to let the mind go and wander. Say your intentions. Again, I'm going to point you back to the 9 principles of personal performance. I say intentions every morning because I am training the subconscious to look and scan, to act upon the world that I want to be a part of. And so the first one that I say every morning is, I will add an insane amount of joy to the world today. And so my mind is constantly looking for opportunities and options to add an insane amount of joy. Simple things, it really, really works. So cold shower, you know, we heighten the nervous system. We get that, whatever it is, a 54-degree shower that makes you shake a little bit for 30 seconds and get your day really get going. And then don't forget breakfast. It has to be a part of your morning routine as well. 3 ways to cheat. I love to cheat. I'm not afraid of it. So look at your calendar the night before or before you leave the office, you know, and start looking at your meetings. I have some statistics on meetings in a little bit, but am I essential to this meeting? If the answer is no, then cancel the meeting. If it is not lining up to your vision, values, and objectives, cancel the meeting. Confirm your appointments. You should never be sitting, especially in a remote world, waiting for someone to show up on a Zoom call. It is the worst waste of your time. So make sure you can't confirm all of your appointments. And then think about, again, the role of the subconscious. What challenges am I facing tomorrow? Because your subconscious is going to go and start tackling them for you in your mind. And then lay out your clothes for work. Creativity and decision-making are finite resources. I don't know if you guys have noticed, but I wear the same 10 polos every single day of my life. And they're all proven chaos polos. And they all go with whatever pair of jeans or pants that I own, because I don't want to spend an ounce of decision-making on what I'm going to wear every single day. And I don't really care what I look like. It's just good enough. So maybe if I was more fashion forward, Rachel would be happier, but I'm okay with it. And again, put out your workout bag and clothes. Don't give yourself reasons why you're not going to do it. Oh, I've got to pack my bag, right? If for whatever reason you've overslept a little bit, you give yourself all these little micro reasons of why it's too hard to go do it. So set success in your way, and all of these things become so much easier. I used to just have one morning routine. And I would tell you, now you need to have multiple morning routines, especially as you start to have partners in life and kids. And so I just think about this as an a la carte. If I only have, 30 minutes of my morning routine, I'm able to shorten it. And in some cases, I eliminate things because that's not what I need right now. I need more meditation, for instance, that morning. Or I have all these ideas spilling out of my head, so I'm going to write more that morning. But my wife travels quite a lot, and so I need to be flexible in my morning routine. I can't always get up and leave my 5 and 10-year-old in our apartment and go work out. And so I'll sit down and do yoga and look at my Peloton app and pull a workout out of the Peloton app. And so there's lots of different ways that you can set up your morning routine. Find the elements and the block, almost make it as modular and flexible as possible based around, hey, I'm traveling, I don't have access to the gym, right? Or my spouse is traveling. But if you do those things in advance, you do the work, your performance will certainly increase. Most people, when they get really busy, lose their morning routine. It's the one place that I see consistently where people just kind of give up. It slides a little bit. We lose the exercise because I don't have enough time. And then I'm sleeping in a little bit more, and then I'm not journaling, and we just totally lose our morning routine. And so just be conscious of that. Routine killers, the snooze button, negative thoughts or dread. Oh, I don't want to get up out of bed. I don't want to deal with the day. Social media, #1 routine killer. TikTok, You keep on swiping up, and hour and a half later, you're still in bed, right? Email. If you pick up your phone and start looking at email, you are on other people's agenda. You are not putting your agenda first. And so other people will wait. Their email will get answered. Tomorrow is a routine killer, right? You wake up and say, I'll work out tomorrow, right? You lose the opportunity to live today, and no plan at night. So set yourself up for success. Positive mindset. You got this. You have to be of the mindset, what are we feeding our brain over time? And so Sean Acker, who's one of the forefathers of positive psychology, is one of my favorite TED Talks called The Happy Secret about better work. But here's the research that he has from the Happiness Advantage, which is your brain, when it's at positive, actually outperforms your brain significantly than when it's at negative, neutral, or stressed. And there's many categories of performance, and it's actually 31% better. So he has quantified this. But here are the areas when you have a positive mind. So it's not just say, oh, be happy, have a great attitude. There is a reason for it. It creates better performance, intelligence, energy, resilience, how long you can work on a project, so your ability to stick with something for longer, how many possibilities you see, how many connections you have, your health. And that is an amazing advantage. So it's not just this frou-frou, hey, just be happy and everything's going to be better. There is a actual tangible benefit to training your mind to be in a positive state. So again, what are you feeding the brain? How much are we consuming versus how much are we creating? Are we looking at our phone? Are we pulling up social media? Are we looking at newspapers? I will tell you that I have admitted this freely before. I am a nerd. I'm the kid that growing up, while people were reading comic books, I was reading the dictionary. And by the time I finished high school, I was reading 3 newspapers a day. And in 2008, as we went into the financial crisis here in the United States, I walked in after picking up the Wall Street Journal. I read the front page, and I realized that everything was negative in the Wall Street Journal. And it was creating such dread and worry for me that I put it down on my desk. And I called the 3 newspapers that I would get delivered every day: the USA Today, the Wall Street Journal, and the Times Union. And I canceled my newspapers, and I've never looked back. So imagine in 2008, I was 34. So I had read 3 newspapers a day for more than 2/3 of my life. And I just realized that it was no longer serving me, that the news cycle had changed so much that it was starting my day with, I'm going to talk about this here in a second, a negative bias. And so I realized that it wasn't serving me, and I changed it. And I tell people all the time, if your thoughts, your feelings, and your actions aren't serving you, then change them. That's what we should do. Jim Rohn says, you're the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with. Stop and take a second, close your eyes, think, look up. Are you bringing up the average, or are you bringing it down? When you think about the 5 people that you spend the most time with, are you bringing the average up or down? Because my goal in life is to make sure that I am bringing that average down significantly, because the quality of the people I am around are so flipping cool and amazing and bright and kind and generous that I'm actually the laggard in the room. That would be amazing to me. And so we have to be conscious about who we're letting into our life, because if we let the negative Nellies in our life, boy, we're in for a long, negative spiral for sure. There's this thing called the negativity bias, right? Cognitive bias that results in adverse events having a more significant impact on our psychological state than positive events. To say that differently, if we have 2 things happen that are of the same gravity, one is positive and one is negative, we think about the negative event way more than the positive event. The example is, if you have a basketball player that scores 45 points, which is an amazing game. They have an amazing game, and they miss the last shot of the game. What does everyone focus in on? Not that he kept them in the game with 45 points, but that he missed the last shot. That is the personification of the negativity bias. We are constantly seeing and thinking about things in a negative way. And it's really just a survival instinct. It is more impactful that we run away from the lion then we sit and smell the flowers, right? And so we just constantly have to be thinking about those things. Again, come back to the progress principle. One of my favorite books by a Stanford professor really uncovered that small successes during the day, huge importance when improving the inner work life of people, and that in turn leads to higher productivity. So when you look at these things, we have to celebrate the small successes. So I work with high achievers, and sometimes all they can focus in on are the negative things that are happening because of that negativity bias. And yet we can point to 100 things that are going really, really well. And so we have to make sure that we are celebrating the small wins. The example that they give, there are many stops along the way to climbing Mount Everest. When you stop and think about climbing the world's tallest mountain, it is intimidating and it feels insurmountable. But when you say, I only have to climb 4,000 feet today, and I get to stop and take a break, and I get to do that again and again and again over the course of a predetermined set of time to get up the mountain, I can climb 4,000 feet a day. That's not insurmountable. And I celebrate my progress, which sustains me so that you can continue to do really hard things. And so the progress principle is super important. Make sure you celebrate the wins along the way. Otherwise, you're only going to see the negative. And I was just saying this, but if your thoughts, your feelings, or actions are not serving you, then you change them. You are the CEO of your own life. The highest purpose of everyone's life is to live your life on your terms, which means you have to bring conscious intention to everything that you do, and you have to have stewardship over your life. And so focus in, make sure those things are serving you. I thought this statistic was super interesting. There's 75% of job successes are predicted by optimism levels, social support, and the ability to see stress as challenges. Just stop and think about the importance of your approach, right? Again, I'll point you back to episode 5, your attitude and your approach. But if 75% of our success rests on our optimism levels, doesn't it make sense that we would have a happy, optimistic, positive approach? Makes total sense to me. Create that unfair advantage for sure. Vision, values, and objectives. This is one place where I see we get out of alignment because there is a term that people use called the shiny object syndrome, where we chase the shiny objects because we lose sight of our vision and our objectives, or we lose sight of our values, the operating system. And so 90% of Fortune 500 firms have some level of mission, vision statements that are communicated across the board. And it allows them to perform because everyone has clarity on what it is that we're trying to do. And so if it's good enough for the biggest companies of our country, it is good enough not only for you personally, it is good for your company as well. And so when we look at this, we want to have alignment. How aligned are our actions with our vision, values, and our objectives? I call them the VVOs, right? Have we taken the time to write down our vision? Have we written down our values? And do we know our objectives? Because if you don't know where you're going, you're already lost. And so we're constantly trying to create alignment there. So I encourage people to do a Friday review. And I work with owners of companies. So the joke is, I call this the should I sell the Ferrari question, right? And so on Friday, I'm looking at all of our metrics. And this weekend, should I sell the Ferrari or should I take it for a drive? Because we're either in really good shape or there's a big problem that we need to go fix. And so if we're not looking to say, are we hitting our goals? Are we doing what we wanted to go do? Are we living with that conscious intention? Then you're not going to be doing it, right? And so I'm concerned with two things when I look at vision, values, and objectives. I think about trajectory and I think about velocity. And so trajectory is, are we headed in the right direction, right? And velocity is the speed at which we're going to go get to our North Star or our vision. And so the more we can be focused in on our vision, our values, and our objectives, the more we can be accountable, the more we can execute against those things, and the more we can achieve and perform at a high level. If you're not doing a check-in on Friday every week to say, Am I doing what I need to do to drive performance? Then you're missing an opportunity to recalibrate your trajectory. Because if you are 1% off and you don't revisit your metrics and what you're doing, you end up being very far off the path of where you want to go. So you have to constantly look and say, am I doing the right things? Are we doing the right inputs to create the right outputs of the business? And then how do we do that faster and better to get us closer to where we want to go? Calendar control. High achievers, what do? We try and stuff as much stuff onto the calendar as possible. We look and say, we mistake busyness for productivity. Because if I have a slot in every single part of my calendar on Outlook or on Gmail, right, then I must be doing the right things. And my answer is absolutely not. We need, really important, lots of space to think about what it is that we're doing. In today's day and age, because we're not seeing people in hallways quite as often because of remote work or hybrid work, 45% of meeting goers feel overwhelmed by the volume of meetings on their calendar, which then made me think, well, geez, I wonder how many meetings everyone has. Average number in the course of a month, 62 meetings by employees. Stop and think about your own life and how many meetings that you have. Then I thought, I wonder how productive those meetings are. 50% of meetings are considered a waste of time by employees. We need to be thinking about in calendar control, and I talked about this before, when you do your review the night before, am I critical to this meeting? How am I going to be adding value? Do I need to be here? If the answer is no, politely excuse yourself from the meeting. Don't feel, oh, well, Summerlin might give us this great idea. That's why I want you there. It's like, no. Like if I am not critical to the meeting, I am not showing up. Not because I don't want to be there, but because I trust everyone that is there. That is your role. That is your responsibility. That's your lane or area of responsibility. And so go execute it, do it. So what are the elements of calendar control that we need to be thinking about? So you need white space for thinking and creativity, right? The higher you go up an organization, the more white space you need. So if you are the CEO of an organization, the rule of thumb is you should be spending 30% of your time thinking about what the organization is doing. If you are someone new into an organization, you should be spending at least 15 minutes a day. Am I working on the right things? What things should I be thinking about? What questions do I have? What have I not been trained on? We need to carve white space into our calendars. It is not doing nothing. People mistake, oh, I don't have anything in that slot. You must not be doing anything. No, that's the time that I'm doing the work. I have to do the thinking as part of what it is that I do. Calendar control, refresh and renew. It's principle 9 of the 9 principles of personal performance. You not only have to have little things that you do on a daily basis to refresh yourself, but you also must get yourself up and out of your environment to renew. So you must go on vacation or do a staycation, something that takes you away that actually really recharges you and your battery. Again, alignment. When you look at your calendar, does this action contribute to achieving our vision or our objectives? If it doesn't, excuse yourself or cancel it. It's A-okay. You need to be ruthless in this area. A little tip that I give people is don't schedule meetings on the half an hour and on the hour. Schedule them on the 25 and the 50, meaning you now have 5 minutes at a minimum to process your 25-minute meeting or to capture the details or to send that email. And if you have a 50-minute meeting, you have 10 minutes to work through all of the things that needed to happen come out of that meeting. If you start to back meetings, then you're in a place where you're going to get to the end of the day and you're going to feel overwhelmed, you're going to feel burnout, and you will have not set in motion all the things that need to happen. And so make sure you set aside time for processing and the doing. One of the things that I've seen work really well is calendar blocking by time slot or by theme of day. So you can either do, hey, I do all of my meetings in the morning at 9 o'clock. That's one way of doing it. Or by theme of the day. On Mondays, I focus in on marketing. On Tuesdays, I focus in on personnel. On Wednesday, I focus in on whatever area of responsibility you have. And so be intentional with your calendar. And again, start saying no. This is one of the hardest things for high achievers because it feels good to get invited to a meeting. Geez, I'm a part of something. This is awesome. But at the end of the day, that's not effective for the organization. It's not productive for you unless it's directly related to what you need to know. And so get comfortable with saying no. One of the most important things that I have people do is 15 forward. And so 15 forward means we take 15 minutes on a Sunday, we look at our calendar 15 days out, and we make sure that there is alignment on the vision and the objectives with everything that's on our calendar. And if there are things that we need to get done, we need to schedule time for it in my calendar to make sure that it does get done. And so it gives you a long enough horizon. Hey, that meeting that was scheduled 3 weeks ago is no longer relevant because we've solved that problem. We take it off the calendar and we make sure that that space is freed back up. And so 15 forward is just a great habit and discipline to get into. 15 minutes. I tell people on average, it will save you 4 hours of wasted time over the course of those 15 days by being disciplined to say, does this contribute to my vision or my objectives? And if you're ruthless in doing that, you will get more of the right stuff done. That's what I got today. Whew, talked for a while. How'd we do, Mike? How'd we do, okay?
Yeah, that was great, Jerry. Some real key takeaways for me. That 15 is one I've never thought about. And I'm a person who kind of actually lives life on purpose, but that
Yes.
just simple, very confined, very thoughtful 15 minutes. I haven't brought it in. I do a Sunday night routine normally to kind of set up my week. I'm much more of a night guy. So a lot of that early morning stuff makes me itchy every time you talk about it, but
So true. So true. But the science, I always say, and I know you're backed in science, so the science always supports what it is that we're doing. And so if we can connect the how and the why together, you create all sorts of unfair advantages for you in your day-to-day life. And so I don't know anything more than what the data tells me. And so I'm going to lean into the data for sure. Summerlin, anything that struck you as we went through that?
Yeah, I really liked the portion about the morning routine and also writing out your goals. I think I read somewhere that people who write out their goals end up achieving them a lot quicker and actually end up achieving them than people who don't write them out, which I thought is something that's really cool. I know you didn't mention that, but whenever I saw that you said something about like thinking about your goals for the day, I thought about that thing that I had read.
That's right. And there is science behind that. So Paul, who's our researcher, if you can take a note, we'll get that statistic for you, Summerlin, and we'll share it with you because I know you like those statistics.
I do. I love statistics.
Yeah, it's really good. I love it. I know I went through that super fast, but I would tell you, as I look at working with high achievers, we all get off the track sometimes. And this is the thing that I keep on pointing people back to. I have people doing this with their leadership team. I have people doing this with their spouses to make sure that both of them stay connected and on the same train. And so this has been a really effective tool. It's not anything that I set out to do, but it was just one of those things that when you have as many conversations with CEOs and high achievers that I do, it's these themes that keep on coming out. And it's like, okay, here's where people are getting stuck. Let's put some context around this so that we can help people. Caroline, I saw you hop on too. Sorry, Mike.
Anything cooking right now in terms of what's getting people stuck? I know people I'm talking to, it's return to the office. If that's a yes or no, or do we stick with hybrid, or like, is that tripping up leaders and CEOs that you're any kind of pattern?
For sure. I think that the changing dynamic environment that we're in, that you are going to make some people happy and other people not as happy is a difficult, conversation. And what's right for one company is not going to be right for another company. I think a lot of people look to companies like Facebook and Apple and Netflix and Google to see what they're doing, because those typically seem to be forward-thinking type companies. And so that becomes sometimes the baseline for people. But Apple last week just pushed back their return to office again. And so there's a lot of resistance to going back into the office. And, we spoke, Meg Newhouse and I, about the future of remote work. And she's been remote since 2017, a great places to work, a fast growing company. I think it's much like the digital music industry. People who do not embrace it, they're going to be left behind. But yes, Mike, to your point, I would say hiring is one that's causing real frustration for senior leaders, and how to handle return to work is the other one. Those are the two places where people are having frustrations. But again, if you use this framework of the Personal Pentagon, you're able to say, what am I doing that I've gotten myself off track? Well, I've lost sight of the objectives of the quarter. And so I'm making decisions that are reactionary instead of forward thinking. And so we just help to walk through, hey, here are the elements of the Personal Pentagon. How do we make sure that we get you back on track? And it becomes very clear when you start to have this conversation, and you've done it with someone a couple of times. They're like, you know what? I've lost my morning routine. I'm not working out. And it becomes really self-correcting because we've given them a framework, just like I gave you, to think about, why am I getting stuck? And, no matter how good you are, no matter how disciplined you are, at the end of the day, we all get stuck for different reasons. And so this just gives us a flashlight to shine on our performance and see how we can do it better. Guys, next week, I don't know if you've met this guy yet, but Timmy Gallagher is a force of nature. And so when COVID shut down and there were no Ironmans to run, Timmy did his own Ironman, self-supported, and is just an amazing guy. And so he loves the science of performance and sages and saboteurs and positive mindsets and morning routines. He is going to be really fun to talk to about using this framework that I use to look at high achievers, getting people either accelerating their performance forward or getting unstuck. He's going to share his approach to doing this. And, obviously, if you have a mental model that allows you to do 7 Ironmans and has competed at a high level for a long time, ultra marathons to all sorts of craziness. He will be a fun guest next week for us to learn from. So I hope you guys will tune in then. And if you haven't joined yet, I will make one more pitch to join the June 30-day fitness challenge. Carolyn, I see you laughing down there. I know you're working towards a half marathon.
I'm going to join, Jerry. I'm excited about that. So I'm going to join.
I love it. So that'll be a fun thing to do. Just continue to build and bring the community together. And so I really appreciate all you guys for stopping in and saying hello. And we will see you next week. And if you haven't joined the Facebook community too, we have a private Facebook community. Roanna and Maria, I don't know exactly how many we're up to, but I think we were nearing the 70 mark. And so I would tell you, go join the best places to lead Facebook group. They just dropped the link in the chat as well. So,
yep. Jerry, thanks for all of your work. I know, you're talking about food as fuel and sleep. And I know when I get out of my routine, it's not good. So, and I feel much better when I'm exercising. So June should be a good month.
Amen. It's the keystone habit for me. So that's why I'm selfishly starting with the fitness challenge. But we're going to do, I have a couple other ones in mind over the course of the year. I can see a reading challenge as well, maybe in Q3. So
yep.
We'll do some fun stuff. So
love it.
66. Roanne said 66. I'd love to get to 70 by the end of May. So if you haven't joined, or you can invite a friend, I'd really appreciate it. It'd be a lot of fun. So I appreciate you guys. I hope you have a great rest of your Thursday. And as I always say, go forth and conquer. See you guys.
Thank you. See ya.
Sure.